All right, so yesterday we talked about John Morton, and I want to get you guys' comments, so make sure you, on playback, you put it in the comment section. I think that right now, John Morton has lost the locker room. I think he lost the locker room. Dan Campbell, we found out yesterday. Now, when we got on yesterday, we did not know this. Dan Campbell told John Morton on Monday that he was going to be calling the plays against the Washington Commanders. He told him that. On Thursday, whenever the coordinators get in front of the media, John Morton threw his players under the bus. He threw his players under the bus. I was pro John Morton. No, I'm not. If we move on from him or Dan Campbell decides to take over play calling for good, I'm okay with that. He can be an advisor. He can be a consultant. He can be whatever he needs to be. But once you lose the locker room, once you start blaming players like that, then I think at that point it's gone. You heard the kind of the rumblings from the players. Then John gets in front of the media, throws said players under the bus, and then Dan Campbell winds up calling the plays. I think this is a sign that the Detroit Lions need to move on from Johny Morton. They probably will not fire him this year. They probably will demote him. We just found out that the Washington Commanders have demoted their defensive coordinator. So he is now like the Anthony Lynn from a few years ago. But John Morton, man, you cannot lose the locker room. You can't do that. Let me see. So I think that's what we need to do. We need to move on from John Morton. And again, I was pro this guy because our offense was pretty good. We came out we looked flat against the Green Bay Packers. And I put that on a few things. I put that on not only us not playing during the preseason, but the fact that John Morton, this is new to him with our team, right? So I gave him some slack there. We come out, we whoop on the Bears, we whoop on we don't whoop, but we put up a bunch of points on the Baltimore Ravens, the Cleveland Browns, the Cincinnati Bengals. We're doing well. We win 4 in a row. Nobody was really complaining. Then when we started, but the thing that kind of went in with those teams is they were bad. They were bad teams. Then we play a bad team with the Minnesota Vikings, and we can't score. Nobody's getting the ball. We can't score. And then Brad. So what that tells me, that Dan took over play calling. It tells me that this, to me, like if you read between the lines, this has been brewing for a while. Dan didn't just make this decision. He just didn't up and say, hey, I'm going to take over play calling. It was something that was brewing. I think he even saw this even against the games we were winning against those bad teams that, hey, I might have to step in here. But then again, Dan Campbell, if you look at the contrast between Morton and Campbell, Campbell's like, it was a collaborative effort. He said in his press conference yesterday, it was not only Johny Morton helping him, it was Shaw, it was everyone. It was a collaborative effort. It wasn't just one man. It wasn't just a handful. It was a bunch. That's what he said. But he also said he wanted to change things a little bit. It was time for a change. I think this is a soft reboot, if you will. I think this is Dan Campbell's way of saying, you know what? It's not going to work. I think we need to move on. And I think because of that, and because of what I saw on Monday Night Football in Week 10, that Dan Campbell is going to call plays against the Philadelphia Eagles. They are a very beatable team. They really didn't look that great yesterday. Watching them, you have Saquon Barkley, Devontae Smith. It's like you'll have Devontae Smith or A.J. Brown go. I think A.J. Brown had 2 catches. Smith was the one eating them up. And Saquon was coming through in the clutch. So I'm like, I'm watching this team. And I'm like, okay, their secondary is suspect. Yesterday, I took Jamison Williams out of my fantasy lineup because he wasn't getting the ball. And yesterday, he would have helped win me my fantasy game. Had 23 points, man. For the first time he's had any points in forever. So I think that this is a sign that the Detroit Lions are going to move on from Johny Morton. Let me see. We got a comment says, yes, I was also pro Morton, but you're right. To call out your players, it wasn't the worst thing he could do. Even when we were putting up points, it just didn't feel right. You know what? I think that's because of Johny himself. I think that's it. HCDC is better hand-on play calling than Ben and John. You know what? What else too? Is a lot of y'all didn't vibe with John being in the booth. You know what I'm saying? You got Coach on the sideline. You got Ben Johnson on the sideline. And a lot of you guys did not vibe with that type of dynamic. And I don't know if we've had a guy in the booth like that before. It's almost like, so he was already kind of standoffish in the first place. His claim was he didn't want to be distracted. That's what he said. So I don't know, man, but give me your thoughts on what do you think is the future of John Morton? Do you think that Dan is going to give play calling back totally to John, or do you think he's going to be hands-on like he was, or do you think he's just going to take it all together and we not hear anything about it? Let me know what you think down in the comments below.